How you doing there? Welcome back to Babble on Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Yomi, Daf 22 of Yomi Menachos. Friends, it's a very exciting daf for me. It's a very exciting daf for me because I'm finally after months, I'm going to pull ahead, friends. After months, I identified a daf that I thought I'll be able to. Here's my opportunity to pull ahead. And here we are, friends. Sunday afternoon, still wearing my Shabbos clothes. But here we are. We're going to pull ahead right now and get back on a schedule, get back on the regular schedule like we had for 5.5 years of getting the daf out at the same time every single day with a little, at least having one daf ahead prepared in advance. Thank you to everybody who's tolerated my struggle to keep up, and anybody who was looking for a daf in the morning when they expected it and it wasn't there yet. And so, friends, I hope that that's behind us. I hope to maintain this at least 1 day buffer with all I got, so that from now until forever, there is always a daf available at the same time every day when the people want it. So, God willing, thank you, Hashem. Thanks to everybody. And hopefully we'll be able to keep it up and push ahead and continue learning Menachos. I'm super excited because we got some really exciting sugyas coming up, maybe even this week already or next week certainly, about tefillin and mezuzah. And I really wanted to be able to have some space to be able to look into it, in proper detail and stuff. But I'm always under pressure to get the daf out because I was always behind. I really hope that getting just 1 day ahead means that I don't have to worry about people waiting for a daf. And that way, I'm very excited that this means I can finally, after months, literally months, take a little bit of a deep breath. Not a break or anything like that, but just a little bit of a deep breath. And just that pressure of there's no daf available, for today even, or tomorrow, or whatever. So even this morning, it's right now 4:30 in the afternoon. Just this morning, there was no daf available until 11 in the morning or something, so hopefully that's behind us. And so friends, thanks for bearing with me. And here we go, friends. Daf Yomi of Yomi Menachos, 2 sections. How we know that the wood is publicly funded. Of course, we learned yesterday that, yesterday we were comparing the salt to the wood, and just like the wood is publicly funded, so therefore the salt is also publicly funded. The question is, why are we assuming that the wood is publicly funded? How do we know that? It's actually relates a little bit to a Gemara that we saw in Masechta Zvachim. The truth is, all of this stuff actually essentially we learned in some capacity in Masechta Zvachim. And the next part of the daf is about mixtures. I saw this small daf. I was like, here's my opportunity to get ahead. And then I realized, it's talking about ta'arovos. That sugya is impossible. So the thing is, there's a absolutely massive tosfos on Chav Beis Amud Beis, which I glaringly did not look at, which is what enabled me to pull ahead. But this stuff is manageable. So friends, let us jump into Daf Chav Beis of Masechta Menachos. Friends, we begin on Daf Chav Beis, Amid Aleph, 3 lines into the Amid Ve'etzim de Pshita le Letana de Mishal Tzibur Minol. Why is it so obvious to the Gemara, to the Tana, whoever was Tanaing yesterday? You see, now I have freedom to say whatever words I want, because as far as I'm concerned, JPS does the same thing. So the Tana who was Tanaing yesterday and assumed that the wood for the Korbanis is publicly funded, why is that? The sign that we learned in a Braise, Yachol Omer Are Olai Ola. Is it possible that somebody who says, I am going to bring a Korbin Ola Yavi Eitzim Mitoch Beso, does he have to bring along wood? Obviously, he has to bring along an animal. Does he have to bring along wood? Like he has to bring the libations from his house. Now, I don't know that much about bringing libations from the house. I hope that we'll learn more about it ahead of us, but I don't know so much about that. I think in Menachos we're going to learn more about libations, so hopefully we'll get more info on that, some more intel on that. But does that mean that he's got to? So he brings that. You think about a Korbin Ola. So he brings a sheep or a goat or something. And could be a cow too. And okay, so you bring like a sheep, right? If you're bringing a sheep. You also have to bring what? You also have to bring flour and oil and wine as well. I mean, it sounds like it, but hopefully we'll learn more about it ahead. So is it possible you also have to bring wood? Mom, you have to bring everything. Get a good knapsack. That the Korbin is burned on the wood that is on the fire, that's on the Mizbeach. Mizbeach, Mishal Tzibur, just like the Mizbeach, right? We're comparing fire, wood, Mizbeach, just like the Mizbeach is publicly funded, Af Eitzim Ve'esh Mishal Tzibur, the fire and the wood is also publicly funded. Divrei Reb Elazar Reb Shimon, that is the opinion of Reb Elazar Reb Shimon. Reb Elazar ben Shamua, however, Reb Elazar ben Shamua, the Stam Reb Elazar, the Reb Elazar that I just happened to notice that Janine wrote about on Sugya Sisters, that we saw the other day, who was crying when he said, Ashreichem Talmidei Chacham Chavivin, what was it? Shechavivan Aleichem Toraschem. So it says Reb Elazar ben Shamua, Ma Mizbeach Shelo Nishtamish Bo Hedgit, just like the Mizbeach that was never previously used by anybody, also wood and fire that was never used previously by anybody, and therefore Memela, that's going to be publicly funded. Well, what if you have new wood? You see, according to Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, who says that, well, just like the Mizbeach is publicly funded, so therefore the wood is publicly funded, so it doesn't matter if it's new or not. What matters is whether it's publicly funded or not. You could theoretically have old wood that is donated to the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore it's publicly funded, and that could be used even though it's not new. Whereas Reb Elazar ben Shamua says it needs to be, as long as it's new, right? It needs to be new in order to be usable, right? And therefore we assume that it has to be publicly funded because it has to be new. It couldn't have been used by anybody else. I guess technically speaking, if it was new, maybe you could argue that doesn't need to be publicly funded. Is there a whole to-do going on outside? I don't know. Oh, maybe it's the cats. The cats, they're getting very excited these days. Okay. Anyways, if you have new wood, Vatike lo, what, you can't use old wood? Vayomer aravno el David. This, of course, we learned about this in Daf Kufta Zayin of Masechta Zvachim. This is the story with King David and Aravno. After King David insisted on counting and taking a census of all of the Yidden, a very big plague struck the Yidden. 70,000 people died. That's a lot of Yidden. 70,000 Yidden died. And as the angel of death was going to strike Jerusalem, the Rabban Shalom says, stop right there. And he stopped by the field of Aravno. And it was to there that King David went to offer sacrifices. Aravno el Duvid, and Aravna says to King David, Yikach v'yal Adoni Amelech Hatov be'enav, please take whatever you'd like and offer it. Re'ah boker la'ola, you're free to use the cattle for olas. V'merigim v'chlei boker la'etzim, and for wood you can use the morigim, which we'll explain what they are in just a moment, and the klei boker, and the vessels that are used for the cattle implements and tools and stuff. Now, apparently it seems to be a non-issue to use these tools that ostensibly are not new, and they're being used as firewood for korbanos. No, they were brand new tools. My morigim, what are these morigim? Mita shel tarbel. My mita shel tarbel. Amar of Yehuda iza de kurkisa de dashuba dashtoi. Some kind of spiky kind of thing that was used to thresh like wheat or something. I think even to dafka make like animal food. Amr Yosef Maikra, what is the pasuk that means that the morag is this spiky thingy? Hine samtich, I think it's a cha. Hine samtich le morag charutz. I've made you a morag that is like, was it spiky? Le morag charutz chadash bal pifios tadusharim. It's a really spiky board kind of thing that's going to break up mountains into powder. So that's how you know that a morag is a spiky board. Okay, and that is also how we know that the wood is publicly funded. Friends, now we get up to a new Mishnah where we discuss mixtures. Nisayriv kumtza bekometz chaverta. If the kometz of a mincha, okay, so the kohen takes a kometz, scoops up a kometz from the mixing bowl, and he puts it in the kometz bowl, and then somehow it gets mixed together with the kometz of another mincha. Okay. B'minchas kohanim, or it gets mixed together with the Korbin Mincha of a kohen. Now, Korbin Mincha of a kohen is entirely burnt on the mizbeach. So is the kometz. B'minchas kohen Mashiach, or it gets mixed in with the minchas chavitin of the kohen gadol, which is also entirely burnt on the mizbeach. B'minchas nesachim, or with menachos that accompany korbanis, which also are entirely burnt on the mizbeach. Kshera, in all those cases, it's kshera, because essentially things that are going to be burnt on the mizbeach get mixed with each other. The kometz is going to be burnt in the mizbeach. The other kometz that it gets mixed up with, the minchas kohanim, minchas chavitin, minchas nesachim, these are all menachos. These are all going to be entirely burnt in the mizbeach. So things that are going to be burnt in the mizbeach got mixed up with each other. So just burn everything on the mizbeach. Nish gefe'elach. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda b'minchas kohen Mashiach b'minchas nisachim psula. So Rabbi Yehuda says something interesting, which is that if the kometz of, let's say, a minchas soles gets mixed together with a minchas chavitin, with the minchas kohen Mashiach, or with minchas nisachim, it's psula shezo blilasa ove v'zo blilasa raka. V'hein bolo zo mizo, and they absorb from one another. Very interesting. In minchas soles, the ratio of oil to flour is 1-to-1. 1 isaron of flour to 1 log of oil. However, when it comes to minchas nisachim, for example, it depends on if it's a sheep or a ram or a cow. Let's assume a sheep. So it's 3-to-1. Right? It's 1 isaron of flour to 3 logs of oil. The same for minchas chavitin. It's 1 isaron of flour to 3 logs of oil. So the thing is, we learned in a Mishnah on Daf Yud Aleph that, let's see, what does the Mishnah say on Daf Yud Aleph? That was 11 days ago. The Mishnah says on Daf Yud Aleph, Mud Aleph, Riba Shamna, Choser Shamna, Psula. That if there's too much oil or too little oil, the mincha is possible. Now, if you have the minchas soles, let's say, which needs to have 1-to-1, and it gets mixed up with a minchas nesachim, which is 3 parts oil, right? 3 logs of oil to 1 isaron of flour. So in terms of the minchas nesachim is going to flood the minchas soles with too much oil, and now you're gonna have too much. And the minchas soles is now gonna have too much oil, and also the minchas soles is going to essentially dilute the ratios of the minchas nesachim, and you're gonna have too little oil for the minchas nesachim. So basically, says Rab Yehuda, look, if a kometz of a minchas soles, let's say, which has a 1 isaron to 1 log ratio, gets mixed together with another kometz, or with a minchas kohen, which is also a minchas soles, she said it's entirely burnt. Okay, there's no problem with that. It's all the same, everything's the same over there, all the same ratios. However, if the kometz gets mixed together with minchas kohen gadol or minchas nesachim, where the ratios are different, that's going to be problematic according to Rabbi Yehuda. Tanan Hasim, says the Gemara, we quote a Mishnah from Masechta Zvachim. Maybe you remember this Mishnah. This was a tricky concept. It was ta'arovos. It was a difficult sugyas. Dam shenis arev b'moyim, that if blood from an animal gets mixed together with water. So the question is the blood still kosher? So we say, Im yesh bo maris dom kosher. Look, if it still looks like blood, then it's fine. But if it's diluted to an extent that it no longer looks like blood, so then it's possible, right? I hope I didn't mix anything up, right? So basically, so long as it still looks like blood, then it is acceptable. Nisar bayoin. What happens if the blood gets mixed together with the wine? So it gets mixed together. If the blood gets mixed together with wine, either way, it's going to look like blood because they're both red. So roin also kilu humayim. What we say is, well, how much blood got mixed together with how much wine? And then we say, well, what if this wine was water? In that kind of a mixture, would it still look like blood or not? If the answer is yes, it would still look like blood, kosher. If the answer is no, that it wouldn't still look like blood, possible. What if the blood of a Korbin got mixed together with the blood of dinner? Got mixed together with the blood of chulin, whether it's a behema, whether it's a chaya. Same thing, we view the blood of the behema or the chaya as if it were water, and we make the same cheshbon. If there were that amount of water, would the blood of the Korbin still look like blood or not? Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda, ein dam mevatel dam. Rabbi Yehuda says that blood is not mevatel blood, and therefore, even though you have the blood of a Korbin that got mixed up with the blood of tonight's dinner, blood is not mevatel blood. The blood of the Korbin is still going to be valid. I think the point is you could do Zrikas Adam with it. Rabbi Yechanan says, Rabbi Yechanan, Vishnei Mikra Echad Darshu. Both the rabbis who say that that when blood of a Korbin get mixed together with blood of tonight's dinner, the rabbis say it depends, right? We have to view the blood of tonight's dinner as if it was water, and let's see if the blood would still look like blood or not. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says automatically the blood of the Korbin is kosher; it's not going to be batel in other blood. Both the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda learn out their respective, right? Their respect. Oh boy, what's it called when you say respectively, right? Yeah, I think they're respective opinions from the same verse. So the Mishnah in Masechta Yoma and Daf Nun Gimel describes how the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur would combine, as we like to call my family, a concoction. He would concoct I don't know if this is exactly a concoction, but this would, as far as I'm concerned, it's a concoction. Whenever you take two things and you mix them together, it's a concoction. Anyways, the Kohen Gadol would mix together the blood of the Par Yom HaKippurim together with the blood of the Sa'ir Yom HaKippurim. And the Pasuk says, V'lokach midam ha'par u'midam ha'sa'ir. And from this mixture, the Pasuk says, he takes from this mixture, what's in the mixture? Blood of the cow and blood of the goat. This might be familiar. I hope it's familiar. And of course, it's obvious that a cow has a lot more blood than a goat does. And therefore, I should think that the goat should be batel, the blood of the goat should be batel to the blood of the cow, right? Wrong. The pasuk still says it's a mixture of cow's blood and goat's blood, not just cow's blood. So the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda both glean their respective positions from this pasuk. The Rabbanan Savi, the rabbis hold Mikan the Olin Shem Mevatel Zeh. So the rabbis say what we see from here is that you have the blood of the goat, which is blood of a Korbin that goes in the Mizbeach, and you have the blood of the cow, which is blood of a Korbin that goes in the Mizbeach. So the rabbi said, we see from here that when you have two Korbanis, they are not going to be mevatel one another. However, in our Mishnah, we're talking about the blood of a Korbin and the blood of tonight's dinner. Those are not two Korbanis. And that is why we say, well, let's see, imagine that the blood of tonight's dinner was water, would it still look like blood, etc. Because one part of the mixture is not a Korbin. But if it was a Korbin, so then they would not. Then it wouldn't be batal like we see by the Par Yom Kippurim and the Sar Yom Kippurim. Rabbi Yehuda Savar, what Rabbi Yehuda learns from this pasuk is that mikan lemin b'mino she'enu batal. Rabbi Yehuda says it's not important that they both be korbanos. It's important that they both be blood. What we see from this pasuk is that you have blood of a cow, blood of a goat, and yet they each maintain their respective integrity. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says even in our Mishnah, where we're talking about blood of a Korbin and blood of tonight's dinner, no, not in our Mishnah, in the Mishnah from Zvachim, where we're talking about the blood of a Korbin and blood of tonight's dinner, Rabbi Yehuda says the blood of the Korbin will not be batal because, as we see from the cow of Yom Kippur and the goat of Yom Kippur, blood is not mevatal other blood, and the blood of the Korbin, therefore, is not batal in the blood of tonight's dinner, no matter how much blood, how bloody tonight's dinner is. Rabbanan Savi Mikan Le'olin Shem Mevatal Zeh. So the rabbi said from that pasuk, you see, the pasuk by Yom Kippur is talking about two korbanos. So two korbanos can't be mevatal each other. V'dilma mishum demin b'minahu. Maybe it's like Rabbi Yehuda though, that forget about the fact that they're both korbanos. What's important is that they're both blood. That's why they're not mevatal each other. Iash me'inon min b'mino v'losh minon olin kidika amar. The Chacham say, look, if the example was min b'mino, was blood and blood, and was not also two korbanis, okay, beseder, I would agree with you. But now that the pasuk specifically is talking about two korbanis, we're going to say it's the reason why they are both maintain their respective integrity is because they are both korbanis. Maybe though the new rabbis, maybe it should be that sure they both have to be korbanis. Maybe they both also have to be the same type. Not just two korbanos. So kasha, it's a good question. Okay, let's go weiter. Rabbi Yehuda holds mikan lemin b'mino she'eno bato. Rabbi Yehuda has said we see from here that min b'mino, two types of blood in our example, are not bato. That if they're the same thing, they're not bato. V'dilma mishum de'olin hu, maybe because they are both korbanis is why they're not batal. Yashmin and olin min b'sheino mino kidikamer. Look, if the example was two korbanis that are not the same, so I would agree with you. But hashadash mino min b'mino. But in this example by Yom Kippur, they're both blood. So mishum min b'mino hu. So it's because they're both blood, which is why they retain their respective integrity. V'dilma adiika min b'mino ve'olin. But maybe it should have to be both min b'mino, right? Two types of blood in this case, and also korbanos. Maybe it has to be both. Kasha. Givaldik. Nu. So what do we see here? And I don't see it explicitly, but I in my mind there's a tie into our Mishnah. So what we see from here is that both the Chacham and Rabbi Yehuda learned their respective opinions and positions from that pasuk by Yom Kippur, that the blood of the cow and the blood of the goat were mixed together, and still the blood of the cow is the blood of the cow, and the blood of the goat is referred to as the blood of the goat. It's not batal to the cow, even though there's a lot more cow's blood than goat's blood. Givaldi. The Chacham learned from there that you see two korbanis are unable to be mevatel each other. And Rabbi Yehuda says you see from there two of the same type, two types of two bloods or two things of the same type cannot be mevatel each other. What's the nimshal? What's the tie into our Mishnah? So I think with the tie into our Mishnah, I think I imagine I drew my own conclusions. I hope it's correct that the point is in our Mishnah we had said that according to the Chachamim, if the komets of a Minchas Soles gets mixed together with the komets of a Minchas Nisachim, so the Chachamim said even though it's min b'she'eno mino, right? The Minchas Soles is a 1 Isarun to 1 log ratio, whereas the Minchas Soles is a 1 Isarun to 3 log ratio, so it's not, right, it's min b'she'eno mino, it's two different types, but the Chacham say they're both korbanis. And since they're both korbanis, they are not batal, and it's okay, you could burn them. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it's possible if the komets of a Minchas Soles gets mixed together with the Minchas Nesachim, because they are min b'she'eno mino, and even though they are both korbanos, we cannot say that they maintain their integrity, and therefore it is possible. I'd imagine that is the tie into our Mishnah. Friends, that was Daf Chav Beis of Masechta Menachos. Friends, on Daf Chav Beis of Masechta Menachos, we learned how we know that the wood is publicly funded, that the wood for Korbanos is publicly funded. Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon compares it to the altar, which is publicly funded. Okay, fine. It's compared to the altar, which is publicly funded, and therefore the wood is also publicly funded. Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel says it's compared to the altar, which was never previously used by anyone. Therefore, it has to be wood that is new and has never been previously used by anyone. We said in Afkamina is what if you have new wood? I think the point is, would it have to be publicly funded? According to Reb Shimon, right, it would still have to be publicly funded. According to Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel, if it's new, I think even if it's not publicly funded, it should be able to be used. Then we discussed mixtures. The rabbis said that things that go on the Mizbeach are kosher if they get mixed together, whereas Rabbi Yehuda says things that are the same type are kosher if they get mixed together. Friends, that was the Chav Beis of Masechta Menachos. I hope that this should put a chapter behind us where I was struggling to get the dafs out and getting them out inconsistently. I hope that from now on, things will continue as they did for the first 5.5 years of Babylon Talmud to be on a consistent release schedule. Friends, thanks for bearing with me. Have a great day. Cheers.